Got it.
How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
Good. My name is Dominic. I'm with the EMM report. The main topic for today is, what can you tell me about the cricket dance?
Well, it is a film that I'm very proud of, actually. It was brought to me in 2019. The film is based on a novel written by a very lovely woman by the name of Deborah. And when my agent first brought me the script, I read the script and I just fell in love with it. And so I went out and I got the book the same day. I read it twice, like within 1 week. And I said, you know what, I'm totally game. Let's do this. It's a beautiful story. It's present day, it's past, it's got a plethora of emotions that it draws from you, love, excitement, fear, sadness, anger. It's a wild ride, but it's a beautiful story.
Was there anything particular in the story that resonated with you? Was maybe from a past experience or something, or was it?
The character that I play, Angie, she's very driven. She's very goal oriented, but she's also kind of gun shy. She doesn't want to get hurt again. She doesn't want to, she's a little afraid to put herself out there. And I think, I'm definitely understand that mentality. I've been hurt a lot in my past, and, sometimes you get a little hesitant to put yourself back out there, and it's very easy to get lost in your work. It's very easy to focus on that and that become your main priority. And, relationships in your life somewhat suffer, kind of, go on the back burner. So I think, in that regard, I really did understand a lot about her. And I also understand what it's like to lose someone you really deeply love.
The process for this, most people don't seem to understand. You want to do this, you read the book, it's exciting. What's the next thing?
Well, normally I would say I get the audition and we audition. I was very blessed that the casting director actually brought me to the director, and the director was very excited, loved my work. And so we kind of just came to an agreement that, you know what, I'm going to play Angie. So I was really excited about that. And then, I go into a mode of figuring out who the character is, what I can bring to her. I talked in length with both the director and Debbie, who wrote the book, and wanted to get their perspective on how they saw Angie and what they thought her qualities were, and her strengths, her weaknesses, her little nuances. And, I take kind of everything that they thought, what I'm seeing for her, and I start to develop a character.
Have you worked with this director before?
I had not, no, but it was really lovely. I haven't had the opportunity to work with a lot of female directors. So this was a great experience for me, and it was very collaborative. So that was lovely as well. Some directors, it's their way, and this is what their vision is, and she was very much like, okay, let's sit down before each scene. Like, let's sit down, let's go through it, let's talk about it. Do you have any questions, anything that you want to, talk about? So it was really nice to be able to work with a director like that.
Did she give you room to improv, or did you pretty much stick to the script?
You know what, there were a few scenes where, whether it be just myself and another actor, where we would do a couple of takes, and, one time we would do it exactly as it was. And then, one time we might add a little something, we might take a little something away, change the mood, the tone, something along those lines. And she was really open to that. And that was nice, because especially when I started working with my leading man or some of the other actors, once you get there on the day, some other stuff from earlier in the script might have already changed. So now that specific dialogue or scene doesn't really make sense anymore. So you do kind of have to, hone it. So there was room for some changes, but it's such a beautiful story and so well written that we didn't really have to do a lot, which was nice.
Have you seen the finished movie?
I have.
Was it close to the vision you had? Was it close to the script? How much of that did they get? Budget reasons and everything else. It's always hard for me, because everybody does have their own perception and their own kind of vision of what they think it's going to be. And, I was not in the editing room, so I didn't have any say in kind of post and all of that. And I think it came out lovely. I think they really grabbed the main points of what we needed to discuss. And I think all the other actors did a phenomenal job. I don't really have anything to say that it was missing
or that, you know, was left on the cutting room floor. I mean, there was a couple things here or there that I'm like, oh, okay, they cut that, or, you know, that's a little bit different. We went with this take instead of that take. But I think overall, you know, it's been getting really great feedback, and that's something that you can be really proud of.
And for you as an actress, do you prefer the dramatic stuff, the comedic stuff, the serious? Is one easier than the other? Is one?
No, I guess it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. No, I got my start in acting with a comedy, and I love comedy. But the problem is there's so much stupid comedy, and I like British comedy. I like really smart comedy, really dry humor, that kind of stuff. And there's not a whole lot of that out there. My bread and butter has become drama, and you know, I do enjoy that as well, because it gives you such a visceral experience, and you really do, not that you don't with comedy, but you really do take this journey with these characters, and you have these experiences. And you know, I've gone through a lot in my almost 40 years on this planet, and to be able to utilize those experiences and have them help me in my craft, I can't complain about that. I think it's great. At least they serve a purpose, you know. So I enjoy them both. I would rather make people laugh than cry, but you know, getting them to go along with you on a journey in any aspect is a blessing.
On this project, are you more excited in the beginning when you're getting psyched to do it and everything's good? Or are you happy or sad when it wraps?
Ooh, that's a good question. You know, it's different emotion, different types of happiness. You know, the unknown of starting a new project, the excitement, the anticipation, the how is this going to go, you know, the new people you're going to meet. It's like going to a new school for the first day. You know, every time everybody shows up on set for the first day, it's like getting to know, and cliques form and things like that. And then when you wrap, it's always sad, because you're saying goodbye to a family that you've now had for however long you've been working. But you're also excited and anticipating seeing the final project and seeing how it all turns out, and you know, bringing it to those who have heard about it for however long you've been working on it, wanting to know, well, when do I get to see it? When do I get to see it? So it's two different types of happiness, but I think I'm happy in both aspects.
You've done a bunch of different types of projects. Can you get a vibe kind of when the project starts, whether this is going to be really good versus this is just a project?
Usually, yes. I mean, there have been a few that have broken that rule where I'm super excited about it, and then literally the first day I'm like, oh, this is going to be just horrible the entire time I'm here. I know it. And then there have been some that I've been extremely nervous about, or thought like, why am I even here? And it turned out to be one of my most favorite jobs. So you know what, it's a toss-up. It could be either or. It really depends on how everyone, once you get everybody together, how they all fit, and if they fit, in my opinion.
You brought up a point. When people see your work, do you prefer that they look at it from a technical perspective, or something that entertains them for an hour and a half if it's a movie?
You know, I would rather that people look at it as something that entertains them. You know, having been in the business as long as I have, it's so hard for me to watch a film and not look at it from a technical standpoint. Like, I would have done that line differently, or continuity. Oh, the beer was full and now it's empty, now it's full again. Little things like that. It's so hard for me to just separate myself from the business part. So I really hope that whenever somebody sits down to watch something that I've done, that they can really just shut their brain off and just enjoy it, and not think about the outside world and the crazy that's going on, you know, now, and just really have an escape for, you know, the 30 minutes or the hour and a half that they're watching the project.
What's your next project?
So I'm actually, I had taken a little bit of break during COVID, because I actually have lupus, so I need to be very, very careful. I cannot risk getting sick. So I took a little bit of break and kind of hunkered down, you know, did my quarantining. And now that things are kind of getting back to normal, I've actually gotten, I'm doing some stuff behind the scenes, which I'm really excited about, some producing, and I'm working on a little, I can't say too much, but a documentary. So I'm kind of venturing over a little bit. I'm not giving up the acting, but I'm kind of just going behind the camera for a little while.
When you're acting, do different parts of your experience from the previous project and apply it to the next one? Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Because I think every time you work, you learn something. And if you don't, then something's wrong. I feel like every project I've done, I've either learned something about my craft, I've learned something about the actual process, about how to interact with certain people, whatever it may be. So I like to utilize what I did learn on the last one and move forward. And, you know, the day you stop learning is the day you die, I guess. So, you know, as long as I continue to keep evolving, I think I'll be okay.
Are you still working with Lucas LA?
I am, yes.
Tell me about that.
Absolutely. They're a great organization, and they've actually, I'm living in New Orleans right now. And so I've been helping them kind of virtually like you and I are right now. And because it's hard for everybody in that organization. We're all immunocompromised. So, you know, we have to be extra careful, but they've been a great source of strength during this time, because, you know, a lot of people were just, there's a lot going on with everybody, not just, you know, people who are immunocompromised, but everybody. So they've been a great resource for people like myself to go and just, you know, vent to, or, you know, to help other people that are stricken with the disease. So yeah, I can't say enough good things about them.
How did you get involved with them? How did that come up?
So back in I was diagnosed in 2010, and back in I want to say 11, a friend of mine by the name of Bob Guinea, he and I were chatting one day, and his really good friend actually worked with Lupus LA, and I believe it was his mom who had gotten them involved, because I believe it was his mom. Now, I might be misspeaking, but she had been involved with Lupus LA. And so I said, I would love, you know, can you put me in contact? I would love to help out in any way I can. So I met with Adam, the founder and creator of Lupus LA, and I've been doing whatever I can to help them out since.
Do they have a website, a social media?
They do. They have everything. It's lupusla.org, and then, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Lupus LA. It's you'll be able to find them. And I believe I have links up on my Instagram. We did a little podcast about 3 months ago, I believe, and that's on my Instagram. So if anybody wants to go down and check that out, there's links in the description for Lupus LA.
You also do bunch of animal activism. Do you still have the show, The World Animal News? Is that happening?
No, actually, so we had that for a couple of years in LA at T Radio V, and unfortunately that did end. But, you know, both myself and Katie Curtright are still, you know, obviously very passionate about animals and animal rights and animal awareness, and we're both still, you know, dealing with all of the horrific things that happen to these beautiful sentient beings. So we're still out there pushing. Unfortunately, the show did end, but you know, our passion did not.
From your experience, why do you think animals get such a raw deal with like everything?
I wish I had an answer for that. You know, I think humans just look at themselves as the dominant creature, and a lot of people don't stop and realize that everything fits. So, you know, if we hunt this animal to extinction, it's going to be a trickle-down effect to where things are not going to work anymore, you know. And I think that it's just a lot of people, they can't see past right here, right now, this moment, and they don't understand that, you know, if we overfish the oceans, then it's just this effect. And I really think some people are just horrible humans, honestly. I just rescued a dog with my boyfriend back in February, who's this beautiful, lovely, adorable, sweet, kind, gentle soul who had been abused by 2 different owners and had to be rescued back twice before he was even the age of 2. What's the point? You know, I don't understand. I don't understand how you can look at something that's looking at you for care and love, and you just are horrible like that. But, you know, I don't understand people who abuse children either. And there are plenty of those as well. So I really wish I could understand the psyche of some humans, but as long as I'm on this planet, I'm going to keep fighting to make sure that they're all safe and taken care of.
Thank you. COVID, how did that impact you professionally, personally?
So I had actually was in the process of moving to New Orleans right when COVID hit. So moved to this new city and couldn't go anywhere, couldn't do anything, couldn't explore it. I couldn't sell my house in Los Angeles. It was a whole thing. So personally, it was a little jarring. And I moved in with my boyfriend right away because, you know, we had to quarantine together. So, you know, we have this little funny saying that if we can survive COVID, we can survive anything, because, you know, it was 24 hour a day, 7 days a week, you know, you're just stuck in this room with someone. And professionally, like I stated earlier, you know, I had to back off. I had to take some time off because I just couldn't risk putting myself into a situation where I could get sick, because, you know, unfortunately, being immunocompromised, you don't know how your body will react to something like that. It could be nothing, or it could be, you know, a death sentence. So I had to be very, very careful. So I'm happy that you know, things are starting to get back to an altered normal, if you will, and that, you know, I can start working professionally again, and that you know, we can take a trip, or, you know, go do something and get out of the house for a little while. I mean, I'm a homebody, but I need some fresh air. Ooh.
After COVID, does that mean movies are being made the same way? Producers, are there bigger productions, less productions, bigger crews, smaller crews?
From my experience thus far, I think with regards to the size of the crew, I think they're trying to keep them a little bit smaller. I know that there are mandatory vaccinations for several different companies. I know that, you know, the masks, a lot of the restrictions and rules that our union has put into place, you know, those have to be followed. I think there's just an extra amount of caution now, you know, a lot of social distancing. So unless you have to be on set, you know, you're not. And before, people would just hang out at the video village, or they just hang out on set and watch stuff being filmed. Now you can't do that anymore. You know, I haven't been back on set since COVID happened, so you know, I haven't witnessed it firsthand, but I do have some friends who have worked, and they've said that, you know, it's testing every day or every other day, depending upon what the production requires. And you know, it's a lot. It's a lot, but they're getting it done. And you know, I think I'd rather be overly cautious than not cautious enough, and have, you know, because if it gets shut down, that's a lot of money every day that you know, comes out of the budget that they're going to need. So yeah.
Your experience and everything, this whole thing that happened to Alec Baldwin, avoidable, not avoidable?
That's a loaded question. You know, I have been on probably 5 or 6 sets where I've been around guns, and every time there's this protocol. You know, the person who brings it on announces that there's a weapon on set. You know, then they have to bring everybody around. They have to show that it's empty. They have to take it apart, put it back together. But you know, we're human, and accidents happen. Unfortunately, tragic accidents happen. And I don't know that we have all the facts yet. I don't know how much of the truth they've actually released. And I don't want to speculate, because I don't want to, you know, put any negativity out there that isn't warranted. However, I mean, if everybody had done their job properly, I believe it would have been avoided. However, you know, nobody's perfect, and things can be missed, and one person could have thought that the other person did it, and vice versa. And then here you are in this situation. I think it's, regardless of whose fault it is, regardless of who dropped the ball, it's just bloody tragic. It really is, because she was apparently, I never worked with her personally, but she was apparently an amazing, amazing human. And, you know, everybody on that set now has to deal with witnessing that and going through that for the rest of their lives. And that's a heavy burden to carry.
You'd mentioned you were going behind the camera and stuff. Are you doing more the financial side of things, the creative side?
Creative. I love being creative. I love kind of coming up with ideas and coming up with stories and different things like that. If I don't have to deal with money, I don't want to. I hate dealing with money. So I really enjoy, though, getting with, you know, like-minded people and becoming and just sitting there and being really creative on all different levels.
Creatively, everything comes from life experiences. Everything comes from stuff you've read, stuff you've heard, stuff you've seen.
I think it just comes from everything. I mean, I've had experiences where I'm like, oh, this would be a great idea, or we should discuss something like that. And then there's also, you know, just your imagination and sitting out back, and something pops into your head and you're like, why hadn't I thought of that before? Or, you know, somebody brings up an idea and then you get with them and then you just make it even bigger and better and more beautiful. I think I mean, obviously, the more life you experience, the more ideas you have. But I think they can come from any aspect.
When you have an idea, is there ever a thought in your head that maybe you're either pushing it's going too far with the story, or maybe it's too personal, or it's too touchy, or there's something, or you just be creative and follow the idea? That makes sense?
Yeah, I would say, me personally, I would just be creative and follow the idea. I know some people don't like putting too much personal stuff out there, putting themselves out there in that way. I've never had a problem with it, because especially with things that have affected me in a negative way, if I can share my story and then help one person, then it was worth me going through that. That's how I've always looked at it. And I think that putting yourself out there, you're always going to get something back, whether it's what you expected or not, but you're always going to learn from it. And like I said earlier, I love to continue to learn and have new experiences, and you know, it just keeps pushing you in a forward trajectory.
As an actress, are you kind of happy where your career is at? Do you think maybe you could be, I guess, I don't know, bigger, more popular, or bigger roles? I don't know.
For me, it's never been about being more popular or being famous or being rich or, you know, having I don't care. Like I literally don't care. What I care about is putting out good work, having fun, and just working, enjoying myself, doing what I love. My passion is doing this, and I love when I'm on set, and I love acting, and I love the whole process. And as long as I can continue to do that, I'm fine. By no means do I need to be Angelina Jolie. That poor woman can't leave her house. I like being able to go to the grocery store, you know. that's where I'm at with that. But you know, as long as I continue to work, I'm happy.
For you, is there a definitive role you feel that was acting wise?
That I have done, or that I'd like to?
Yeah, that you've done that like showcases your abilities, or
Well, I mean, I would say the one that I'm most well known for would probably be Sons of Anarchy. I enjoy her and having been on that show, because that character, she was so much fun to play, but she's so polar opposite of who I am in real life that it's always such a shock when people meet me and they're like, wow, you're not a bitch. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I enjoy that kind of revelation that they experience. But I mean, every role that I've had, I've been really, really lucky. There's none that I would say, oh God, it was just what it was. You know, I've really enjoyed everything. I mean, the first time I ever had to really get emotional on camera was on, you know, Days of Our Lives. I was on the soap, and I mean, that was like going to acting class every day. And, you know, one note that I got once was, hey, Kristen, next time we do the crying thing, you have too much snot. Could you maybe not snot so much? Which to me, I look back on and I just start cracking up, because I'm like, what a note to get on set. So I really enjoyed every single role that I've had. They've all been, obviously, they're getting better, thankfully, but they've all been really fun and unique in their own way.
Sons of Anarchy and Days of Our Lives almost seem more popular now, maybe, than when they started. Why do you think that is?
COVID? No. I don't, you know, that's a good question. I think with Sons, you know, people, once it wrapped and then Mayans came out, which was basically the spinoff, people went back and they rewatched Sons and remembered how much they loved it. You know, it had only been off for a couple of years, but and obviously people still talked about it, but they had forgotten how much they really loved it. And I think that kind of brought it back to the forefront. And now with the soaps, there was a long period of time where we thought they were going to go off the air completely. And when they didn't, and now they're doing some spin-offs, and, you know, some of these soap stars who have been around forever are now doing different shows like Real Housewives and kind of bringing those names back to the forefront of pop culture. I think that's actually helping a lot with that genre. So I think, you know, and who doesn't love a big drama? You know, a big drama fest like Days. I mean, it's just, people get possessed and then they die and they come back to life, and it's a whole thing. You know, it's just fun entertainment.
Your character in Sons of Anarchy and your character in Days of Our Lives, how difficult is it for you when you walk away from the project to kind of detach yourself from that playing that person for so long?
Well, I mean, those two characters could not have been more polar opposite, which is just hysterical. And I actually got Sun shortly after I left Days. So that was really interesting. But for me, when I left Days, it wasn't really hard for me to leave her behind because she wasn't nearly as dramatic as one might think. She was kind of even keel, and you know, she had some drama, but she was just a good person. And then Ima, on the other hand, from Sons, you know, she was this horrible human who was just always up to no good and always mischievous, and you know, that one, it was a little bit harder to kind of leave her behind because I had become so comfortable living in that world and living in that role. Not personality wise, you know, not me specifically personality wise, but just, I mean, even events that I would go to, I was always having to be Ima, you know, I was always having to be on. So it was a little bit more difficult to kind of leave her behind. But she's never far away.
When you get recognized in public, do people expect you to be that character?
Absolutely. I can't tell
How
you
do
how
you
many
handle
times.
that?
I'm sorry?
How do you handle that?
I just giggle. I mean, a lot of times they expect me to be this horrible human who just, you know, is going to do everything awful and horrible as she possibly could in that moment. And when I mean, I get it all the time, like, wow, you're actually nice. You're not a bitch. Holy cow, I did not see that coming. I just thought you were going to be, you know, you're just so different than your character. And that to me is the greatest compliment one can receive, because that means I did a good job. So, you know, anytime somebody says something like that to me, I'm like, thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you're an actress, but how much different are you than the people see in all these roles? Is there a big change when you've got to become this person in Sons and this person in Days?
With Sons, that was probably the biggest difference of a character that I've played. I always try to bring a little bit of myself, a little bit of the, whether it be kindness or whatever it may be, humility, to the roles that I play. But I mean, I have played some strange girls, and I mean, I've enjoyed every second of it. But there's always like a little tiny bit I like to keep of myself in them, just to keep it kind of grounded, if that makes sense. So yeah, they're some of them are more difficult than others, but I try not to ever fully lose myself in something.
We have 2 minutes. What do we need to promote for you? Do you have website, social media, anything?
Yeah, I have Instagram, I have Facebook, I have Twitter, I almost said MySpace. I do not have MySpace, but I do have a website. Everything is just my name, Kristen Renton. So any social media platform, you look up my name and I will be there.